All right, and here we are,
Okay,
once again. Hey everybody, it's Adam Farkas along with
Paul Farkas here.
And welcome to the ZEISS Ophthalmic Digital Summit 2019. Can you believe it? We're doing it again?
Again, by popular demand.
By popular demand, they invited us back. So thanks everyone for turning up here so early this morning. I mean, it's early for us. We're out on the West Coast, so for us it's still before 8 a.m.
But it was a cool 50 degrees this morning.
It was out here in Portland. It was.
But not around the country.
No, there's a heat wave going on for sure. But anyway, thanks everyone for being here today. And if you don't know what the conference is all about, let me just sort of share with you what we're doing here today. Let me pull up on the screen so everybody can see sort of what this is all about and what we're doing. So let's pop it on up here. There we go. I think everyone can see that, I hope. Fingers crossed. And
This morning.
yep, so everyone can see it. All right, cool. So up on the screen right now, you're sort of seeing what the summit's about. So it's on July 20th and 21st, so today and tomorrow. And we're going to be running courses for 3 hours today. And while the courses are going on, we're going to be talking to you here and interviewing a bunch of people. We're going to put this on a loop when all is said and done at the end of the day. So if people want to watch it again, they can. The courses will be on a loop as well. So if you miss, let's say you're on the West Coast, it's early, you missed the first class, as soon as it's over, it'll be back on the site. So if you came into this late, you can come and watch it again.
Right, and it should be up for about a month?
And it's going to be up for a month afterwards. So yes, it'll be up there. So we have these 6 interactive courses, 3 today, 3 tomorrow. An exhibit hall with discounts, we'll get to that in a second, and just FYI, the conference is free. So if you're listening to me on ODwire right now and you haven't registered for this, feel free to just go to that URL at the bottom, ods2019.com, and register. It'll shoot you your registration email. You can get right in, and you can start engaging with the courses and go to the exhibit hall. Now, speaking of the exhibit hall, so this is the big topic on people's minds. The discounts that are being offered here today are large. And what you need to do if you want to qualify for any of these discounts is go into the exhibit hall, and it's super easy. Once you've registered and you're in the conference, you click on the button that says exhibit hall, and then you go to the quote booths, right? It's all digital. So
are there more than one booth? Or is
yeah,
it one?
so they have several different stations that you can go to depending on the kind of technology you're interested in, right? If you want a Claris or a Cirrus, you go to different places, and then you can go into these booths and you can check each one out. There's a ton of videos about each device, and then there's a button that says live chat. Click on it. Folks from ZEISS are standing by, and you can start chatting with them, and they can start quoting you prices for different devices. Based on the feedback that we got from last year's session, the discounts are deep.
Right,
so,
because they don't have to ship
because they don't
equipment.
have to, right? They don't have to schlep equipment with them. The equipment vendors always tell us how much they love doing this because they don't have to carry anything, and it's incredibly expensive to do one of these trade shows.
So it reflects the discount.
Exactly. So that's why they can afford to give you a discount, because they're not, especially for a company like ZEISS. If you've been to a trade show, you've been to one of ZEISS's booths before. Oh my goodness, it's one of these gigantic affairs. They're big. They have all kinds of equipment there. Just to ship the equipment, I can't even imagine how much that costs.
And it's got to be very sensitive equipment. So
yes, so you got to be careful with it. So
very expensive shipping.
So it's much easier for them to sort of, and staffing is of course another huge expense that they have to bring all of their staff to these conferences. Well, right now the staff is there, but the staff is probably, if I'm going to guess, in their own homes. Right? They're probably in their pajamas for some of us out here on the West Coast, and they're able to interact with you without having to go anywhere, so they can keep their costs lower, and that's why they can pass the savings on. So definitely
And will they be able to ask questions of the speakers?
Yes, and so during the lectures, you can talk to the speakers via text chat. So there's going to be a text box, and you can interact with the speakers as the lectures are going on.
So just like CE Wire.
It's just like CE Wire. The difference is, and just this is another question people are asking me, can I get CE credits for this? And the answer is no. So the way COPE works, the accrediting body, is if companies sponsor an event like this, they will not give out CE credits for it.
Right.
So that's just the way it works in accreditation land at Arbo. So yeah, there's no credit for this, but the lectures are the same quality. They're really good. The same speakers you know and love, and we'll get to that in a second.
And best of all, it's free.
And it's free, right? So the show discounts. So just to give you a sense of what's on offer here today. So for ZEISS's digital refraction components, they're selling at the lowest prices. They'll give you deeper discounts if you buy entire system packages, and discount equal to freight pricing. So I'm not sure what that means. This is something that I guess this is a ZEISSism or a equipmentism that I don't know. I'll have to talk to. We're going to have someone from ZEISS on to interview in a little while, in about a half hour, and I'll ask her what that means.
Freight pricing.
Freight pricing. Discount equal to freight pricing. See, a piece of lingo I didn't know.
Oh, you're not a salesperson.
That's true. And by the way, if you're watching this on ODwire, not watching it on YouTube or wherever else it's being streamed right now, underneath on ODwire, right beneath where the video is running, there is a text chat box. Feel free to type in there to let us know if you have any questions or if you
if you're there.
If you're there, if you know what freight pricing means, you can help us out a lot. So just go right in there. So again, more show discounts. All the pre-tested anterior segment imaging devices, again, lowest selling prices, and again, they mentioned discount equal to freight pricing once more. Chairs, stands, tables, all at the lowest selling prices, and entire packages at the lowest prices as well.
I didn't know ZEISS did chairs, stands, and tables.
There you go.
I thought they just did equipment.
You learn something new every day.
Well, for me, especially.
Okay, now in terms of the courses, here's what we're doing today. So at 11 a.m. Eastern, there's going to be the OCT Retinal Bootcamp with Dan Epstein. And
That's in 5 minutes.
Oh yes, that's coming up in yes, it is, isn't it? So if you're new to OCT or you just want to review, this is a really great class on the basics, right? The fundamentals of OCT, what the technology is, how it works, and some interpretation as well.
Yeah.
So this is a good starting point. And I'll have you know, because people have asked me, what's the most popular content on ODwire? People have wondered.
Yeah.
So if you look just at the number of minutes of what people watch, OCT interpretation, far and away. You're talking about millions of minutes a month of that streaming video that people watch over and over again.
And Dan is a real expert.
He is, yep. So this is going to be a real treat. So I advise anyone, if you're interested in OCT, to go on in and check that one out. Then at 12, we have new trends and practices in the diagnosis and management of glaucoma. So this should, again, also be another fantastic lecture. We have two experts in the field, and I advise everyone to go on in and take a look at that as well. And the third lecture today, Ultra-widefield 2.0, HD True Color Imaging. And this is going to be, and of course, it's going to be with Kevin G and Dan again, makes an appearance again. So this is going to be all about wide field imaging, which has become a very hot topic because the technology has improved so much over the last several years. And I guess you're going to talk about the Claris a bit, and I have some great images as well to show you guys of what the output of this device actually looks like. So it's pretty neat. What's funny about wide field too is when it first came out, I remember how gigantic the devices were. Just these huge things. You could probably fit your whole body in if you dug in there just to actually look at the guts of these things. And now they're sort of small and
very
tabletop.
small.
The footprint has become much smaller. I guess that's the way of technology. Everything advances. So check that out. And tomorrow, just to give people a little preview, another glaucoma lecture, which should be good. And OCT angiography, again, another new hot topic, something where the technology has really caught up. This is something that people wanted for years, and finally the hardware and the software came together to make something really great. And we're going to get a lesson on OCT angiography. And then wavefront digital refraction in practice. So again, these are tools that did not exist back in the day when you were so it's all new and a lot of fun. So that's coming up, and hopefully you all can make it out there and see it. But again, if you can't make it, it's on demand for a month as well. So if you can't make it live, you can always come out and check it out that way.
Right.
Now, one other thing that I wanted to remind people of with ZEISS is a giant company, as you know. They don't just do this. Obviously, optics are their thing. And it is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landings.
Today.
And I will have you know that ZEISS, let me see if I can put it up here to show people. Did you know that ZEISS lenses were the ones that took all of those photos? So from the beginning, ZEISS was engaged trying to design a lens that would actually survive in space and do a decent job. So all of the footage that you're seeing from the space missions from Mercury on, this is all ZEISS technology, including the very famous Earthrise photo there from Apollo 8.
So was it really an international type of program?
Indeed it was. So yeah, and when you think about it, the space program probably wouldn't have been what it was without all of this technology to film and capture all of this,
Well,
right?
the remarkable part is this was 50 years ago.
Yep.
And I think the last time we went on the moon was about 1971 or 72.
Yep.
So there you have it. I don't know how many people will have the memory of another space launch.
Yeah, well,
that's still active.
Yeah, well, we're trying now. SpaceX is coming back and trying to do it cheaper. But I guess this just goes to show you, if you really put all of your effort and funds into one place, this is what you can get. So
it was interesting. They were discussing the fact of, well, why did it happen? And was it all just science and they were looking to get to the moon? Actually, it was just a competition between the Soviet Union and the United States, who could get there first. And that's why they set it up. If they didn't have that competition, you wouldn't have gotten the money from Congress. And that's one of the problems we have today. That's why things are so slowed down. There's no urgent competition internationally, we think. But the Chinese are there.
We think. Yeah, well, now of course you're getting private industry coming in as well. Although I have to show you something. Wait, hang on here. So this is still up on the screen, right? So let me just go grab something. I figured it was germane, right? And we have time, and no one's listening, right? It's just us guys.
It's just us.
It's just us guys. So I figured I'd show everyone this. See, I have props. I came with props today. So let me sit back down here.
Look at that.
I came with props. So let's see if this will actually show. Maybe not. So apropos for today, you probably can't see this too well, but it's a bottle of wine. Of course, bottle of wine. Of course, it's empty, but it's got the three astronauts from Apollo 8 on the bottle. It was Borman, Lovell, and Anders, and so these were the first folks. And you saw in the Earthrise picture over there. These were the first folks to really leave Earth's orbit and go out to the moon.
Look at those guys. And what 50 years does to a person.
And so I went to a dinner with these three gentlemen. It was 2 years ago. They had an anniversary. They wanted to get back together because they don't get together very frequently. And I guess they figured, well, we're all kind of old, and
there may not be another anniversary.
There may not be another one, certainly. So they got together for Apollo 8. And you get a little bit of wine into these guys, and they start talking about what it was like. And what they said was actually kind of funny. They thought, and Anders said it, and he was probably the smartest. I don't know if the smartest, but he's the engineer. He said he thought that they had maybe a 50-50 chance of making it back from their little trip around the moon on Apollo 8.
Wow.
But what he also said was, well, we were test pilots and fighter pilots, and our alternative was going to Vietnam. So we figured we'd take our chances.
Take your chances there. Yep.
But it is interesting. These guys still walk among us, at least for now. So, yep. Apollo. Wow. All right. So much for that. So anyway, for today, as you're watching this and listening to us, if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask them. And in fact, someone's asking right now, will the lectures for today and tomorrow be available to stream online? And the answer is yes. What we decided to do is, as soon as the lecture is finished, literally a minute later, it'll be available to stream again. So if you see something that you like and maybe you, I don't know, had to step out, or you just
or you want to see it again,
or you want to see it again, you can go immediately right back and watch it on demand.
It's like a good movie. Yep. Sometimes you will get nuances with the second view
right.
that you didn't get the first time.
Yep, absolutely. So you can come right back and watch it again.
We have to thank ZEISS for that.
Yes, you do.
Our sponsor.
Yes, we do have to thank ZEISS again. They've been really great to work with on this project, and it's been kind of a monumental effort getting all the speakers together, getting all the tech together, and putting this all together in a relatively short amount of time this year. So kudos to them. And by the way, we mentioned wide field imaging before. I want to show you guys something real briefly. So for those who are unfamiliar with what wide field imaging is. Okay, so Mr. Novice. So remember, with typical imaging, it's very hard to get out to the periphery, right? So these wide field imaging cameras are able to do it without dilation and try to get you as wide a field as you can. And this happens to be output from the Claris 500. So again, in the lectures, I'm sure they're going to be talking about it. The latest and greatest device that they have. And you can kind of get a sense of the clarity of the pictures that it's capable of taking. So you can see a bunch of sick eyes and some hemorrhage.
Yep.
And just to get a sense of what a normal eye should actually look like as a wide field image. So there you have it.
Amazing.
Yep. And again, as I mentioned before, the tech itself is getting so much smaller. I should probably go find a picture of the Claris to show you what it looks like. But it is like a tabletop device. It's not the kind of thing that you could, walk into. It's just not that big. And all of the technology is getting smaller. If we show you pictures of like the ZEISS OCT, again, you're looking at a device that is just small, tabletop. It doesn't take up much at all. And we're going to be talking to Jessica Gerxis very soon, and she's the product manager for ZEISS for their OCT line.
Right.
So we'll be able to speak to her all about it. She's going to tell us what's been going on with ZEISS and any of the new stuff that's been happening with the device, and there is a lot. One of the cool parts about equipment, or I guess, I don't know if it's cool for some people or an aggravation for others, but the fact is you can upgrade a lot of the stuff with software. It's not like the olden days where an instrument was an instrument and you have it and you own it and that's it. Now, instruments can be updated afterwards, then the software is constantly going updates and evolutions. And so Jessica is going to talk to us all about that, about what's been going on with ZEISS and what they've been working on.
And just the great advantage, if you're in a smaller community and you get one of these devices, you don't have to keep it a secret.
Right.
Your local newspaper, your local TV would be delighted to have you on and speak about it because the visuals are wonderful. So you would take up a great part of the interview just showing the wonderful device and images and what it can do. So for those of you that are interested in marketing your practice and they keep asking, well, what's a wonderful way to market my practice? There can't be a better way than using this very modern type of instrumentation.
Absolutely, and we talk about it on ODwire all the time. If you proactively reach out to your local media, they have so much airtime to fill.
Yep.
Like just having you on retainer, sitting there in your local market when they need something that they know that they can go to you.
You can talk about weather just so much.
Right. But there's always another crisis in eye care that they can come and talk to you about, right? The people always have. I was seeing one yesterday about a tick that someone had to remove from a patient's eye. And for clinicians, it's like, okay, yeah, removing a foreign body from the eye, whatever, we do it all the time. But for the mainstream media, that's the kind of story that they like.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you can, get in with your local TV station, you can make more of an appearance and then go on and try to educate folks about what it is that you do. And I got a few more OCT pictures here as well.
And with diabetes becoming an epidemic, there's ready listeners.
Yes.
The people know that they have to have their retina checked.
Yep. Yeah. So you can see we have a whole bunch of images here of OCT angiography, as you can see up on the screen right now, and what it all looks like. So in the olden days, of course, angiography was not the most comfortable procedure. real angiography, not OCT. So this has been a real revolution. in diagnostics, because actually doing angiography before was not easy or simple. So you can just get a sense of the output of some of the equipment here. And while we're doing that, I'm going to make sure that the conference is chugging along here without us and everything is going okay. And everyone can log in. Part of our job here while we're doing the live stream is to just make sure that nobody's having real issues out there, right? That's why we're here monitoring this and why we have the chat boxes open, and why I'm also monitoring the support emails that we get constantly.
If they have very slow interconnectivity, is that a problem getting on?
No, so the videos themselves, I mean, okay, so if you're using AOL on a dial-up connection, well, yeah, that's not going to work. But for most people, even very slow broadband, 10 megabits a second is fast enough for these videos. It's just not that bandwidth intensive.
Right.
Compared to streaming a 4K Netflix video or whatever. Most people have connectivity these days that's good enough. So I'm going to log in here and just it's kicking me out. It doesn't like me.
By the way, if you're watching this right now, you're watching us, send us a message to be sure that we're out there.
Oh, I know we are, because people
Yeah.
people have typed messages into the box here. So it does work. People are out there listening. Of course, I'm sure many right now are actually sucked into Dan's lecture about OCT as well. And let me see. Just want to make sure that everybody's happy here. Sometimes people will send me emails as well. Someone just sent me a question, when are the lectures actually starting? And I'll have to email them back. They just did.
Yeah, the one problem we have doing a national program like this is that people make mistakes on hours. So it's 11 o'clock on the East Coast, it's 8 o'clock on the West Coast, but everything is happening simultaneously. Are we making history here, by the way? Are we the first that are doing this kind of program? Do you know?
Well, we did it last year, right?
Yeah, but no one else is, I guess it's not that easy.
Well,
So other people haven't been trying to duplicate what we're doing.
I mean, it's a lot of effort to do it. I think that's probably one of the big issues. It's a challenge to coordinate a lot of this stuff. What you're seeing from our side, between the lectures and the live stream, that's one side of it. The ZEISS side of it is also very interesting as well, because they have their entire sales team, right? That's international, and they have to coordinate with them and have them participate in the conference as well,
Right.
Because they just can't have one person sitting there fielding all these requests. They have people in different regions and different territories who have to be here as well.
So is this going out overseas on ODwire as well?
Well, I mean, it's on ODwire everywhere. People can look at the live stream right now, and they can register. You can register from anywhere. So yeah.
So basically, there's an international audience.
Sure. Yep. If anyone's awake right now elsewhere.
Well, no, they're wide awake. I mean, you're in the UK.
That is true.
It's nighttime.
So yeah. So if they're around, they can definitely give it a shot. And
and if it's in Australia, it's tomorrow.
And let me see. Just making sure that everyone can actually see.
Matter of fact, if you're watching this from overseas, how about sending us a note? Tell us where you are.
Sure. So Chris, one of the tech folks who handles the support, was saying some people couldn't see the login page. So what that usually means is people didn't refresh their page on the conference page. So the button to get into the conference only comes up 30 minutes before the conference begins. It's very much like the doors only open 30 minutes before the conference begins. So the website, ods2019.com, has a login link right here at the top. See, it says enter the conference here. It says login here. So I can show that to people actually so they can get a sense of it. Let me pop that open. There we go, so everyone can look at it. Okay, so if you're looking at the screen right now, you can see at the top, you just click login here at the top to log in, or you can click here. There are numerous ways to get in. Right, so there's a million links, and then once you go in, you just enter your username and password to get in. And then you will get in. So, yeah, hopefully people will be able to get in without much of a problem. But if they do have issues, that's what we're here for. We're here to help. That's kind of why we're standing by. To give people a little bit of an assist if they need it.
So that's a good question to ask. If someone from the international community wants to purchase something today, will there be any problem? We might have to ask the salespeople that.
Yeah, so Chris is saying if you don't see the link to log in at the top of the page to get to the conference, just refresh the page at ods2019.com and you'll see the link to get in.
But it's an amazing number that have signed up for a conference. This is one of the major conferences.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, we should have several hundred people taking the courses right now, and I think more are trying to log in. And so I'm just standing by here trying to make sure that people can get in properly.
The interesting part is that once people sign up, it seems that more people take the course afterwards than take it live. So you'll be getting exponentially larger numbers in the coming month.
Yep, and again, if you're having trouble logging in, just hit refresh on ods2019.com and click at the login link at the top. Because some people are questioning, how do I log in? I can't find the link. The link is right at the top, and there's a button in red also further down on the page, and then another one lower down. Sometimes what happens is if you loaded the page before in the past and haven't reloaded it, what you're looking at is the page as it was, hours ago or days ago. And so that can be a problem, and I think that's what some people are experiencing. They don't have the latest version of the page.
For those that are coming on late, can they just log in and it would almost be like 11 a.m.?
Yes, so if people log in late, so what will be happening is right now there's a conference in session, they can join it in session, or they can wait and it'll be on demand as soon as it's over. So they can come right back in and see it again.
Or can they pick it up right now at 20 minutes?
Yeah, they can come right in and pick it up right where it is. Yep.
The problem trying to do it right afterwards, however, is you're going to miss the second lecture.
Right.
If they say you don't want to do that. And remember, for these lectures, the instructor is standing by. So if you have any questions during the time the lecture occurs, there's a box that you can put the question in, and the instructor can respond to you in real time. They are there.
Yep. Sorry, I'm actually on ODwire right now responding to people as well.
What were their questions?
So again, everyone's question was, where's the login link? And again, when we open the doors 30 minutes before the conference actually starts, so if what you're looking at on the website doesn't have the login link, you just need to refresh the page, because what you're looking at is a page that was from, again, maybe several hours ago or even yesterday.
So meanwhile, they could take the course, but they couldn't get into the...
No, they couldn't get into the courses. They're like, how do I get in? It was their question.
Okay.
This is what their question. So
So you have a significant number.
yeah.
That could be a problem.
Yep. So, but it's right here across the top. We've answered everyone that's emailed us or sent an email to support. So I don't think it's that many people. We've only gotten 3 or 4. This is the way of the internet, though, right? Where pages get outdated and then people don't realize what's happening, and then they're afraid to touch stuff because
Yes, that's me.
They don't want it to blow up. Understood. But yeah, so it's hard for us because we don't want to leave the login link sitting there before the conference is ready to open, because that leads to even greater trouble. People will log in and they'll get nowhere fast. So
That room stays empty.
yeah, so
That's another question. Will the exhibit remain for the entire month?
yes, so the exhibit hall will be there, and you can still contact the folks at ZEISS as well. The way it works is even if they don't have someone live sitting there, the live chat room turns into an email form. And so when you can email them, you just type in your message and it'll get sent to the right person at ZEISS who can route you to the right place. So yeah, it's open. So definitely something that you want to do, especially because so many people are going to be taking this conference on demand because they can't make it for a lot of the weekend.
Right.
So yeah, that box will always be open and available to you. What we found too is that ZEISS tends to get back to people very quickly.
Oh, when it's a sale like this?
Yeah, so
you better believe it.
yeah, so they get back to you quickly. They don't want to carry the equipment any more than you might. So yeah, they love doing it this way. It's much easier than.
So that's the one question we do have for Jessica shortly, is can international people order from this American?
I'm gonna guess yes, and I don't know. We can ask her, but I'm gonna guess yes, that they'll always be able to route the customer to the right person
At that discount.
Yeah, so that's a good question. That I don't know. So we should ask her. There's no doubt that this was definitely, the conference itself was really aimed at North America. And it's obvious, right? Because this is where ODwire has the biggest presence. The vast majority, 95% of our users are from the US or Canada.
And the lectures are in English.
Right.
And ZEISS is international, and that's one of the issues. Should we next year go international?
Go international.
And then what language should we use?
Yep.
So
that's always an issue. So, but we can ask Jessica. That's a good question. The things that you think about that I don't. I'm too busy worrying about people being able to log in properly.
And I have very little to think about, so it's much easier for me.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's time to try to reach Jessica.
Well, we have 5 minutes left before we do. So let me actually, before we try to get Jessica on, I want to make sure that everyone gets in here, okay? Because this is part of my job, despite There we
Yeah.
go. Okay, so and Chris, and by the way, if anyone has any problems too, Chris is also doing support, I can see right now. So we have a bunch of people here to help if you have any problems. And if you go to the site again, refresh the page if you haven't to log in. Let me pull it up again so people can see. To log into the conference, it's right there at the top. You can see where it says login here at the top and enter the conference here at the bottom. Those links, by the way, will stay for the next month. So they'll be there. So if you ever want to log in, this is what this page is going to look like for the next month. So you can always log in and see it, and you click and you'll get to the login screen. So easy peasy. Sorry about that for people who missed the link starting. I suppose one thing we could do next year, now that I think about it, is have a page that auto-refreshes itself every 10 minutes. It's not considered great internet practice to do that. It's considered obnoxious behavior, but for a conference like this, I think it probably makes sense. In the olden days,
What
pages...
does that mean?
So in the old days, pages would try to auto-refresh themselves, so they'd reload themselves automatically every certain number of minutes, and they did it to make the page views look greater, right? Because if you had a page that reloads itself, 10 times an hour, you get 10 times the number of page views, even if the person was just letting the page sit there. So it was considered really bad form and really obnoxious behavior, but for a conference like this, refreshing that page periodically is probably not a terrible idea, just doing it automatically so that when people show up, the links will be there. They'll never be looking at an outdated page. So that might be something to try for next time. All right, and let me just check one more thing before we give Jessica a call. You can tell I feel very responsible for making sure people can get in properly. So,
who controls the website now? Is that Chris?
that would be, well, so
Can we have that flash? Is there any way of taking that thing, register here, and making it flash so people can see it?
no, flashing is considered very bad practice. So
Who knows? Well, who knows? Huh?
okay, so people are attending. People are definitely in the sessions, so that's the software is working. So we're good there. And
We couldn't have picked a better day, though, for the course. It's too hot to go outside for most people in the country, so...
yep. Okay.
Okay, the first guest that we're going to be speaking to is Jessica Gerxis, who is part of ZEISS. I was going to say Obrig. Why would I have said that? That's an old company. Part of ZEISS, who'll be talking a lot about the instrumentation. The other speakers are much more on a professional basis.
Well, so the other speakers are going to be, the folks who are actually giving the lectures today. We're getting to them right after their lectures are done or before their lectures start. So we have, most of the speakers here are going to be talking to us too about what it is that they're actually lecturing about. So that's going to be fun. All right, so I can want to try to find Jessica now.
So it's time.
All right, it is time. Don't want to keep her waiting. So, and by the way, this is I'll put it up on the screen. What we're going to be talking to Jessica about is OCT. Let's see if I can find her number. Okay. Jessica.
Hello.
Hey, Jessica, how's it going?
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, great.
Uh,
Hi, how are you?
we are good. How's everything going with you this morning?
Going well. Good afternoon over there, but it's definitely still morning on the West Coast.
Yes, yeah. So we're over here in Portland, and we're just a little bit drowsy. Fortunately, Dad brought me some coffee, so
Yeah, we're set.
there we go. So Jessica, thanks for coming here today and just taking the time out and catching us up to speed. So what has been going on in the world of ZEISS?
Well, I just wanted to answer your earlier question, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
About international ordering.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, international can order. However, we will need to take the lead, and of course, the pricing and import taxes and distribution agreements and all of those wonderful things that are sort of outside the U.S. Will be discussed. So we will absolutely, you better believe, we will take the lead and follow up with the proper channels in their country.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I thought that would be the answer. It's a little more complicated than doing business just here in the U.S. for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
There was another question about freight pricing. What does that mean?
Great question. I have no idea, but
Okay.
that's something
So
to do with shipping.
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So pricing aside, so what's going on in the world of ZEISS? Can you tell us what's going on in OCT, in the OCT land of OCT?
Land of OCT, absolutely. It's a really exciting time for ZEISS owners and those perhaps considering OCT for the first time, or even adding OCT angiography to their practice. As you know, ZEISS is comprehensive. It's a diagnostic tool for the entire eye. So, from the central to the peripheral retina, as well as imaging the optic nerve head and even anterior segment. So depending on your needs or depending on the variety of needs, ZEISS really has you covered for the whole eye. And we do have latest software that we've launched just recently, and it expands ZEISS in all of these areas. We continue to innovate in both for the optic nerve head as well as the retina and anterior segment imaging. So I'll just give you a brief run through of the sort of the overview of things that are new, and then we can kind of dive in if you have questions about sort of the specific features.
Sure.
So we've improved efficiency and workflow, and for busy practices, I know that this is really top of mind when it comes to workflow in the office. So we've added workflow protocols for efficiency improvements, and we've also added a wellness exam, which is very popular amongst ODs that are looking to expand their practices. And of course, OCT angiography, this is where we're making our biggest strides. So we have Angioplex montage, which is used to visualize the peripheral retina for those types of diseases such as diabetic retinopathy, and Angioplex for the optic nerve head. This may be something that certain doctors may shy away from. However, it's a great tool for visualization and looking for change over time, and basically keeping your patients and being able to track them longer before referrals. And then also the anterior segment, you can't forget that. So we now have epithelial thickness mapping for anterior segment, which was originally the pachymetry scan, but then we are able to segment out the epithelium to see what's going on the corneal surface. And then, of course, all of our new instruments will be coming with Windows 10 for added security, of course.
Great. And in fact, the Windows thing, I was gonna ask you about that, because this is a major headache for a lot of folks with all kinds of different pieces of equipment in the office, where some people are effectively orphaned on Windows 7 or older, and they've had to segregate out their instruments from the rest of their network because they don't feel like they can keep them securely in the office. And so now, if you have Windows 10 compatibility, that's fantastic. because it means, Microsoft has made the commitment to keep Windows 10 updated essentially perpetually. So that's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. So any new instrument you have, you'll get Windows 10 on it. But of course, if you already have an instrument, there are always upgrade options to upgrade your system to Windows 10. I mean, this is a Microsoft thing where we really need to be in compliance with all of those security factors, but we also add additional security on top of just the Windows 10 security that you get from Microsoft. So ZEISS has its added security on top of it. And as you said, yes, sometimes people can feel orphaned, but we definitely have solutions for existing products as well as, of course, the new products.
Right.
You were discussing workflows before. We assume that most of the practices that buy this type of equipment are larger practices. Can you talk a little bit more about the workflow and efficiency of the units?
Sure, absolutely. Whether it's a large practice or a small practice, workflow and sort of ease of use is huge, no matter if it's a small practice or a big practice. But we kind of think about as much as possible the physician and the technician and how much time or how little time they have with the patient, that really bogging down their time with the patient by doing these scans. We want to maximize the efficiency there, so you can really choose where to spend your time sort of as you have available. So in the busy practices, I think about, as I mentioned, the ease of use, and of course, is the instrument efficient, and can we create an efficient workflow when using it? And so ZEISS, just in general, people regard it as a workhorse and is considered having a highly rated ease of use amongst both, the people that are acquiring, technicians, and of course, doctors that are analyzing the data.
Right.
The space in many practices is at a premium. What sort of footprint does the equipment have? Is it extremely large, or is it smaller? And is it getting smaller all the time?
Currently, the footprint hasn't really changed. And if you think about it, it's not always the footprint of the instrument, which is actually quite small. If you consider what you need to use as far as a table to put it on, of course, each instrument comes with its own table, and being wheelchair accessible is sort of where those standards lie. In the future, we will have options that have smaller tables, but of course, for the most part, there is that sort of ADA standard access to the tables that we provide currently.
Great.
Excellent. Yeah, and in fact, up on the screen right now, I don't know if you can see it, but I just put up a picture so everyone can get a sense of the size.
And being the American diet being what it is, this is an easy instrument for the, shall we say, the larger people to be able to access.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, everything is adjustable as far as the table up and down, and then the chin rest. It will remember where it was located if you have a repeat patient, so it'll go back to its previous setting, so it's most comfortable for the patient.
Right.
Right.
Getting back to workflow though, when I forgot where I was. It all blurs together. Las Vegas, New York, one of the big conferences. I got to play a little bit with a workflow protocol. So I guess the person I was working with referred to it as an easy button. I'm kind of curious, because I know that sometimes techs get overwhelmed with this, but you've sort of streamlined it. Can you give us a little sense of what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the new software, we have, like you mentioned, the workflow protocol. And as you said, kind of naming it the easy buttons, if you will, where you can really filter out the type of scans that you're looking for. I mean, we have a bunch of scans, as I mentioned, from the optic nerve head to the retina, the anterior segment. So in order to really create more of a streamlined workflow, you can choose to look at all scans, or just retinal scans, or just angioplex scans, or glaucoma scans. and anterior segment scans or wellness. Oh, there you have it right there. So right now it's showing the button being selected for the wellness exam. And so this is just sort of an easy button to filter out, what is a wellness exam? In this case, it queues up the macular cube and the optic disc cube. So it's really easy for the technician. It minimizes additional clicks. And then what we really like is the repeat last visit. So I imagine, you're tracking your patients over time, and you get to see the history of what the patient what scans have been taken on the last visit, and then just queue up those same scans, because most likely once you sort of set those scans up for the patient, you'll just click the repeat last scan or repeat last visit, and they'll be all queued up.
Right, so up on the screen right now, I put up, I think those are the buttons that they're referring to, right? There's a big blue button that says repeat last visit. So you can just sort of literally easily just kind of do this all in one shot. So that's great. So it makes the tech's life certainly a lot easier.
Absolutely.
So the wellness exam basically are for all patients, and which was like a baseline reading, so you can keep watching them through the years and compare it to when they were well to possible symptoms that happen a few years later. So this is extremely useful.
Right, and actually, let me throw up some pictures here of wellness exams if I can find some, so people can get a sense of what this looks like too. So, Jessica, I don't know if you can see this up on your screen.
I'm sure there's a little bit of a lag, but yeah, the wellness exam. I don't know if it's lagging on my end, but let's see. So, yes, the wellness exam is something that doctors are already creating programs for in their office to offer, more services to their patients. And in this case, you already saw the easy button, but this is a comprehensive single-page report that is sort of this wide field view of not only the macula, but the optic nerve head. So this is one of the things that differentiates us from other folks that have wellness exams. It has both the macula and the optic nerve head. And if you just kind of look at it and not really, as a patient, maybe not really understand everything that's going on here, but you're getting really a gestalt of what's happening with both eyes. You can see your macular thickness as well as your RNFL thickness there. So it's just a really nice one-page report where you can see both the macula and the optic nerve head. And of course, with the normative databases that are ideal for this baseline, as you were mentioning. So this is something that you would normally be doing in your everyday practice, taking a macular cube, taking an optic disc cube, and this will be the wellness exam. This is the way to display it here. But of course, yes, perfect. You're using that same data to track over time using GPA, guided progression analysis, and ganglion cell GPA. So, as you know, our GPA is really unparalleled in the industry. And with a simple wellness exam each time, you get that historical information for your patients over time.
Right. So, you mentioned earlier in the call, we were talking about angiography. And I'm old enough so that I remember when you did angiography, a procedure, that was a big deal. And now, of course, technology has advanced to the point where it's become non-invasive, which is, to me, it's almost miraculous, right? It's almost like magic.
Right.
And so why don't we talk a little bit about the angioplex montage that you mentioned before. So can you give people a sense, because I know some people probably don't even have angiography yet in their practices.
Right. Yeah, definitely doctors have told me that, if they were to add one thing into their practice to increase the standard of care for their patients, it would be OCT angiography, because this is something that ODs can access, without injection and without referral. So they can get a really good idea of what's happening, and if that's something that they need to refer out right away, or if it's something that they could possibly track over time. It gives that additional information to kind of empower the ODs by making angiography a reality in their own practice. Just an example of just a very simple example of a known diabetic patient. They may have normal macular thickness, and that may be okay. And at that point, you probably wouldn't ask for a fluorescein angiography at that point. So this is where you could take one simple extra scan and see that there might be capillary dropout around the FAZ, or those telltale signs of microaneurysms that can't be seen clinically. But the only way to detect those subtle early diabetic changes without fluorescein is to use OCT angiography. And so this is really just a very simple and kind of everyday case that an OD may utilize OCT angiography. And so sort of expanding upon that is, and you're showing here, is sort of that wider field of view.
Right.
So angioplex montage is not only kind of looking at the central retina, but of course the peripheral. So again, bringing up the diabetic case, you may start seeing capillary dropout or changes in the outer peripheral retina before you're seeing anything functionally changing, like on your HFA, for example. So you can really, maybe you use it at screening, maybe you use it only for patients that are of high risk or those types of things. But this is definitely the montage. You're able to see a 14 by 14 millimeter view of the peripheral vasculature, as well as the central.
Right. And I just put up
examples.
and I just put up another picture so everyone can take a look at the second one as well.
Sure.
So very highly detailed as well. It's kind of amazing. And I'm wondering, were a lot of these changes that you're making, I mentioned before that a lot of this was software focused. If you already own a ZEISS unit, how can you actually take advantage of this stuff?
Absolutely. It really depends on which ZEISS, how old it is. But either way, you can upgrade any 5,000 machine. 500 machines do not include angiography. There is a hardware component that is missing in the 500. But in the 5,000, ZEISS 5,000, you can absolutely upgrade to angiography.
Right.
And just as diabetes is almost becoming epidemic, this
Absolutely.
is a wonderful marketing tool to reassure the diabetics that you're really on top of their problem way before a visual problem begins. So
Absolutely.
it's a
And
tremendous selling point.
Yeah, and your patient, it's all about, you can speak to your patient, but it's also, assisting with that patient compliance. And, the image speaks 1,000 words. So if they can actually see some of those changes themselves, that really may push them to make changes as well.
Right. So, moving on with the time that we have here from diabetes to glaucoma. So can you speak a little bit about ZEISS and how it works for patients with glaucoma?
Absolutely. And as we showed earlier, the guided progression analysis, just from the wellness exams, that is your RNFL thickness guided progression analysis, as well as your ganglion cell guided progression analysis, which are two key features that you will be using to track your glaucoma patients over time. And the idea is, being able and having the confidence to track those patients before referral. And additionally, with the angiography, this is kind of neat, where we're able to now image the optic nerve head vasculature. We've been able to do it before with angiography. Some doctors are just moving the scan over the optic nerve head, but now we have a specific scan for the optic nerve head that contours to the anatomy of the optic nerve head and segments the optic nerve head with isolating the radial parapapillary capillary layer, which is most interesting for any type of changes in the optic nerve head. And this cannot be segmented in fluorescein angiography. So It's definitely taking angiography to the next level. And of course, you're seeing this related RNFL thickness map below. So as it's only visual right now in the United States for the vasculature of the optic nerve head, but you can also see what's happening with the RNFL, and we're sort of still cracking the code on what's coming first, changes in the vasculature or changes in the RNFL, but you'll be able to see those side by side. And of course, these are different patients, but it's just, you can really see the visual changes above and below on that image.
Right. Cool. All right, so that's glaucoma. Now, I guess one other thing. This is like the Swiss Army knife of devices, because so we talked about diabetes, we talked about glaucoma, and now let's talk about anterior segment for a second. So
Sure.
What can ZEISS do there?
Absolutely. So we have all of our anterior segment scans. You can do HD angle, HD cornea, pachymetry. And as I mentioned earlier, we now have epithelial thickness mapping for the pachymetry scan. So if you've already taken pachymetry, or if you've already have the anterior segment premier module, we can resegment your old pachymetry scans to simply show the isolation of the epithelium. And so this is sort of new to the ZEISS for anterior segment. And epithelial thickness, of course, can help identify some of those areas of local thinning. So this is a perfect image showing this localized thinning due to early keratoconus. Pachymetry may sort of mask what's happening on sort of the epithelial level, and may sort of smooth out the maps there. But when you're really segmenting what's happening on the cornea, you can really help identify those kind of corneal issues. And of course, when you think about using this, you may think about sort of co-management, whether it's understanding pre-surgical candidacy for your patient or post-surgical monitoring, sort of after that LASIK patient perhaps has come back to the regular OD practice, sort of for their yearly checkups. And many doctors, of course, thinking about expanding their practices, they're really getting into the dry eye space. And so I've heard doctors that are using this as a baseline to sort of roll in or roll out thinning of that may be associated with keratoconus during their dry eye workup. So understanding these corneal abnormalities can be really important there.
Right.
And yes, this is a perfect example of the LASIK patient that I was mentioning, where there's actually a thickening. The red is a thickening of a post-LASIK case that has the epithelial cells have sort of redistributed and actually caused a thickening in the central cornea there, where that may be why there is myopic regression, for example. So just some tools that, to add to your Swiss Army knife, really depending on how you're practicing and what your practice requires.
Right. Well, yeah. Cool. I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff here. Is there anything that we've missed? Any other new tech that anyone should be aware of?
We have, this is kind of I think we've covered the back of the eye, the front of the eye, the optic nerve head. We do have a really neat kind of just a neat tool that we can measure. Basically, it's a manual measurement tool, so that's kind of neat, where you can sort of trace a free-form CNV and understand its area and perimeter. And so that's always something that's neat for documentation of what's happening with CNV, for example. So you can actually trace out the CNV and then sort of track that over time. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So this is just a manual tracing, and it's really used for documentation and sort of a pseudometric understanding kind of the breadth of the lesion there. But
Right.
just, an added tool. There's a cornea caliper tool. There's a bunch of other little things that I would love to talk about all day. But I think this is nice to see, as this might be a very interesting use of this measurement tool.
How do they actually do it? Do you use your mouse to actually do that freeform tracing, or do you do it on an iPad, or you use a mouse? Okay.
Yes, yeah. It's just you can manually trace it with your mouse.
Cool.
Okay, I think we've
One,
covered it all.
shows your area. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Jessica, that's great, but there'll be people standing by at the booths if there are additional questions about the instruments. You have sales reps at each booth to assist the optometrist today if they're looking and they have additional questions about the instruments. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We are standing by.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, Jessica, thanks so much for being here today. And by the way, this is going to rebroadcast throughout the day. So once we're all finished here, when people, if they come back to the conference later in the day, because this is all done by 11 a.m. Pacific time, this will be rebroadcast. So hopefully more people will come and catch this later as well. So Jessica, thanks so much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, we're just in time.
Just in time.
Because
Just in time.
we have one of our speakers scheduled.
So Dan, okay, so we'll see how things are going with him. Before we do that, though, I just need to check on some stuff. Make sure that people are getting in okay.
Oh, we can talk about Dan before he comes on. He just gave a course, right? Just finishing up?
Just finishing up. Yeah, he's doing multiple courses here, but he just finished up his first one about the OCT
we can find out
Retinal
about
Bootcamp.
If there are any questions. A little bit about Dan Epstein. He currently practices ophthalmology at Mount Sinai St. Luke's. That should be a familiar name to you, Ad.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, because 48 years ago, that's where you were born.
There we go.
He's a Mount Sinai baby. So Dan is from Mount Sinai, where he's practicing with ophthalmologists there. He was previously in a very high volume multi-specialty ophthalmology practice, where he supervised fourth-year optometry students as an adjunct assistant clinical professor at SUNY College of Optometry. So he is a teacher. And hopefully we can get some more information from him when he's on the phone. So if you want to call him.
Sure, let me do that, since it looks like we're going pretty well here. So let me go find Dan. To make sure I got his number correct, which is always the challenge. Okay. Hey Dan, it's Adam and Paul Farkas. How you doing?
Hi, Dan.
I'm good. How you doing?
How'd your lecture go?
Pretty good. I'm answering some questions right now. They come in sort of like little bursts.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully you can multitask.
Pretty good.
I don't want. We don't want to interrupt you. So hopefully you can multitask this one. But,
There were questions, though, right? That means you had an audience.
Oh, yeah. I was very happy. I think there was like maybe 30, 34 people. So I was happy about that.
Excellent. Yeah, you were the first one up this morning, so people were just logging in, so some of them might be late. So, so cool. So, so it went okay. So people seemed interested.
Yeah, at least from the little bit that I got over here, yeah, I got a few questions. Some people were pretty happy with it. One person said it was a little too short, like we'll have to make it longer next time.
That's a good thing. So,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, you're giving multiple lectures here, right? So you just did one on OCT. You're doing one on wide field as well. So you're going to be a pretty busy guy.
Correct.
So speaking of wide
Yeah.
field, ultra wide field photography, how is that changing how optometrists practice when they examine patients?
So I think it's changing the way we practice in two ways. One way a lot of people are using it sort of like a screener, where people are using it on patients that are not dilated and they're looking for disease, and then giving the patient the option, come back for a dilation because we noticed something, or sometimes people are using it in lieu of a dilated exam. Now, I think what even more people are doing is that they're just able to monitor more of the retina with photo documentation.
Right.
A lot of times these lesions that are mid-peripheral, peripheral, they're really hard to describe because it's so subjective. Something that I call a chorioretinal scar, someone else might call a chirpy, someone else might call a pigmented atrophic hole. But when you are able to image it, it gets rid of that sort of subjectivity to it. And I think that's going to be really useful going forward, because if we can properly identify something, we can properly monitor it and then do research on it, figure out what needs to be treated, what doesn't need to be treated, how often should patients be seen. I think documentation is really the key to everything.
Right, and I'm putting up some pictures right now of some ultra-wide field so people can get a sense of what it is that you're talking about and just how far out it goes. My question would be to people who haven't tried this yet, how long does it actually take to capture a scan?
So capturing the scan, whether you're going for 133 degree image versus 200 degree image, which is just two of those 133 degree images put together, it takes a few seconds once you have the patient actually sit down, you explain what to do for them. It's very easy because there's sort of like a live infrared image that helps you focus. So it's not like you're taking images blind. You're actually able to see how well you focus, where you are. So it really brings down the time of how many images you need to take and how long the whole process takes.
Right. Cool. Yeah, so I'm showing some more photos here just so people can get a sense of what it looks like. So pretty amazing stuff. So switching gears though, you just did a lecture on OCT, and I think it was sort of an overview for folks who may just be getting started with OCT. One of the questions I had was, how did you see how OCT or OCTA for that matter, how does it change, or how has it changed your practice or the way that you go about examining your patients?
Well, I think with OCT, the big thing is that we're not just looking at lesions and going, oh, this is what it looks like, this is how we're going to treat. We're actually looking at the structure of these lesions. So not only are they easier to diagnose and differentiate from other conditions, but we're sort of going away from this era where we diagnose things based just solely on how they look, which again, there's that subjectivity between different practitioners. Or if you're in a group practice, you have 10 different docs, you show them one lesion, call it something different. So when you actually look at the structure of something, I think it's more so evidence-based medicine. So now we have far more guidelines where we know how to better treat these patients. As far as there's OCTA, that's a little bit newer technology, and we're still figuring out where it goes in terms of our day-to-day clinical practice. In the research world, it's been used for a little bit and it's given us a lot of great information on how to figure out how diabetes actually affects the eye. But I think where, clinicians, like when I'm in practice, what I'm using it for mostly is just looking at these diabetic patients or other patients with vasculopathic disease and seeing just how badly affected their vasculature is. Because sometimes you can't base it just based on hemorrhages or how much capillary dropout you can see. Whereas OCTA, you really get a great view of the actual vasculature very simply in a few seconds.
Right. And again, I'm putting up a few pictures of OCTA just so if people haven't, really experienced it, to see just how clear it is. Kind of amazing.
So basically,
Yeah,
when
the
do
resolution.
you have a referral practice? Do optometrists refer patients into your ophthalmology group?
Yeah, so I'm in a ophthalmology department in a hospital here in New York City in Manhattan. So we have several little health centers that sort of feed into our practice. But also a lot of patients come to me from internal medicine, from rheumatology. So it sort of goes both ways, where it's from non-eye people and also optometrists are referring them to me as well because they might not have the technology in that health center or in their practice. So they send it over to me.
Right. You know, shifting gears for a second from OCT, moving over to glaucoma for a second, I know that one of the topics that we're going to talk about in this summit is see to faster and the visual field protocols, the new visual field protocols. What's your opinion on that? Do you have much experience with it?
Yeah, so we recently just got the update in my office. So I don't have, a bunch of data to go by, but it does seem to be much quicker than just a regular see to fast. So see to faster has been better in terms of some workflow. So I'm the type of guy, I like to do a lot of visual fields in like the first 2 years for my patients who I'm following for glaucoma or glaucoma suspect. And then as I realize, like, these patients are pretty stable, I see them less and less, and I do maybe visual field just once a year.
Right.
But up until I get comfortable with the disease process, I try to get a lot of visual field. And as we all know, patients hate doing visual fields because it's so monotonous. It seems like it's so slow. Even though it might be only like 6 minutes, for the patient, it feels like a half hour.
Right.
So it's been good for my patients and just for the workflow in my office. The technicians like it because it's a little bit quicker. They can get maybe an extra visual field done in a time that it would take to do just a regular see to fast. So it's been helpful in that sense. In terms of, am I seeing any variability I concerned of the pattern standard deviation or the mean deviation? I'm not seeing really too much of a difference. But again, I just started with it. You really got to look at the numbers and hundreds of patients. But from the research I've been looking at, it's pretty equivalent.
It's come a long way since tangent screens.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you actually bring that up. So talking about all of these different technologies that are in offices now, they're generating mountains of data, right? I'm thinking back to your day where, patient's file might have just been a couple of index cards that was, this little thin thing. But now you're getting this flood, even from just doing visual fields, right? You're getting just tons and tons of data. In a modern practice, and Dan, you'd be the guy to answer this, how do you actually deal with everything that's coming out of all these instruments all the time?
Yeah, that's a tough one because we do have so much data, especially in practices that some of them are doing, baseline exams for patients on OCT, even if they don't have disease. So 10 years down the line, something shows up that then they'll be able to tell, oh, look at this big difference. And I think a lot of also they're going to start moving towards some sort of system like ZEISS has with the forum software, where it's almost like a repository for all this data, where you can look at fundus photos, OCTs, visual fields, all in one little software within your exam room instead of having to go to the actual instrument and go through the different OCT slices or look at the actual different visual fields. And that really makes things a lot simpler. And I know, like my techs, they hate it when I take up their time. So I'm going looking through the OCT very carefully on each slice. So if you have the review software in your exam lane, you don't have to go back and forth, and you don't waste people's time because the patient's sitting there, the tech is sitting there while I'm doing my thing.
Right. All right. Cool. Well,
So one question for the seniors in the group. When does something that looks abnormal, would you say, well, it's abnormal, but at your age, it's not an issue to worry about? So you have age differentials when you start evaluating all this data? In other words, if someone has someone that's 40 years old has a problem, but it's the same type of picture for a 70-year-old, do you tell that 70-year-old don't worry about it?
Yeah, I think that comes up a lot, like with drusen. So when you see macular drusen in a 40-year-old, you don't really know what's going on. If it's just a few drusen, then maybe it's not actually drusen. It might be, fluid that was there before, sort of resulting in these little pigmentary changes that almost drusen-like. But if you have someone that's like 70 years old with mild drusen, then we know it's early dry AMD. We don't really hear they have much vision loss. But in that patient that's maybe 30 years old with these drusen-like changes, you're thinking, oh, maybe that central serious previously, and you want to maybe keep an eye on them a little bit closer. 100%. Even though OCT helps us a lot, demographics is always very important. You can't ever forget about that.
Right. Great. All right. Well, Dan, thanks so much for doing this, and thanks for doing so many lectures at the.
Oh yeah, you're going to be breathless.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. We'll catch you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Yeah, so his practice is interesting, right? Because
Yes.
he's got all of the modern technologies working with ophthalmologists. So it's so different from the old days, like I was mentioning your index cards, where patient file is a little thing, but now it's just like
It's just amazing the amount of stuff.
it's just a flood. So, yep. And he mentioned Forum, by the way, which is something I don't think we've spoken about too much at length before. So Forum is software that takes the output of various devices, ZEISS and non-ZEISS devices, and tries to integrate everything together for you. So instead of having one thing over here, another thing over here, a third thing over here, it tries to pull the whole story together.
Is
for
it
you.
like the dirty word artificial intelligence?
I don't think I liken it more to having just a secretary trying to keep everything organized for you, as opposed to like taking over the world or whatever, like in the Avengers. But so cool. So that was fun talking to him, and I guess next we're going to have Kevin coming up relatively soon, right, in about 15 minutes.
Yeah,
But before we do that, let me just pull some things up here so people can take a look. It looks like a few people had questions about logging in problems. I'm seeing that going away now. More people are getting into the conferences, which is great. So, if anyone had problems getting in, again, just go back to the site. You'll see that the link is right there at the top of the screen, and actually all over the screen. Right now, I can pull it up so people can see. Pull it on up here. So you can see that the link to these conferences, the conference itself, right here at the top, it says log in here to enter right at the top. You can click that. You can click a little bit lower where it says enter the conference. You can click right here where it says enter event. So it's all over the place where you can get in. And again, if you're not seeing this, when you pull this up on your computer, it's because the page that you have is old and outdated. You just want to refresh the page and make sure you have the latest.
And if you miss the first hour,
it doesn't matter because you can go back.
You can take it after 2 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yep.
Just take it again.
Well, that's the beauty of this, right? You can go back and watch it all today. In fact, what we might do is send out an e-blast. Once this conference is done at 11, I'll send out an email to everybody. Say, hey, the first day of lectures is available now for you on demand. Come on back.
But they have to know that they just can't ask a question in real time. So then if you have a question, you'll have to put it on ODwire, and the speakers can then respond to you afterwards.
Yep. But, even though the lectures will be done today by 11 Pacific time, or you can still go into the exhibit hall. That's going to be open, and the ZEISS folks, I think, are still going to be around, probably.
Right.
And if they're not physically there to answer things in real time, the form will be there where you can fill it out, and they'll get right back to you. Because, again, we're doing this all again tomorrow. So the whole cast and crew will be here. But I think what I'm going to do is send out an e-blast when this is all done today and remind people that the first day's lectures are online. You still have a lot of the day left if you want to come back and look at this.
Right.
What's funny, of course, is that when I was talking to people who registered for the conference, we have hundreds and hundreds of people who are going to be here for this. They keep telling me, like, well, I can show up Saturday, I can't show up Sunday, or I'm busy Saturday, I'm just not going to be there, I'll show up on Sunday. And what we're finding with our conferences, because we do this a lot, right, for CEwire, our big annual conference, what we're finding is that the convenience of being able to go back and watching it on demand is really starting to, for a lot of people, outweigh the ability to watch it live.
Yep, because these time differentials, not only do we have 3-hour time zones in the United States, but you have people in Europe and Asia and Australia. Australia, they're a day ahead. So they're seeing these conferences on Sunday, Monday, rather than Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
So that creates a problem. And one interesting thing we did find is that for you, those folks that are overseas, the deals that you can get by coming into the conference are there for you as well, except that you have your own specific problems with your government and their limitations. But you will get the discounts as if you were attending here in the United States.
Right. So, you know, it's an issue with actually, you know, bringing things into different countries. There are different taxes you have to pay and everything else. So that makes it a little more complicated. So, but if you get in contact with ZEISS, I'm sure they can, you know, guide you to the right person to make it happen. So I was just looking over here. Steve is saying he got in with Explorer but not Chrome. So I don't know what problem people were having this morning, but it seems to be resolved, whatever it is. But what I'll do is I will definitely send an email out to everyone again if they had any trouble getting in, so they'll be able to get in later. But I suspect what was happening is that people were looking at old versions of the page. You know, as I'm looking at this right now, the links, you know, work fine in Chrome. I'm using Chrome right here, and that works. So you can see. Okay, and so let's see what we have up here. We have Steve is sending a text. He's not having trouble. All right. Steve, my friend. In fact, we're going to be talking to Steve later as the conference goes on, because I'm really curious as to his experience, because he's, you know, Steve Silverberg works with us on these conferences, so he's done a lot of virtual CE. And I'm curious as he's taking these classes, you know, what his feedback is about them. So we will see that as well. All right. And by the way, if you registered with a certain email address that you're using to get into the conference, that's the one that you'll need to use to log in. Some people have trouble sometimes logging in because they used a different email address to register for the conference. I've seen that a couple times this morning too.
And they need a password.
And you need a password, right? You need to actually register for the conference. So you have to log in with the email address that you used when you registered.
And the right password.
And the right most people get the right password because they create it themselves, so you know they remember it. But sometimes you forget which email address you use because so many people, especially professionals, have more than one, right? You have one to use for work, you have one to use for home, and sometimes you mix them up and you don't use the right one. So if the system's not letting you in, that could be another reason.
Yeah, and when we have trouble with CEwire, a lot of people try to log into ODwire
right.
For the meetings, and it's not the same.
That has happened before, but yeah, definitely not the same. Completely different, different platforms. And let me actually pull this up over here for Steve. And Steve is saying the lectures are fine. So, you know, I'm always worried. I always want to know that things are going okay. So Steve says all is going well over there. So that's cool too. And I guess we have a few minutes. I can pull this up here. All right, I'm just pulling one thing up here, folks. And then we can get back to the talks. So I think up next we're going to have Kevin, right?
Yep.
And that's not for a few minutes because I think he's still got a talk going on right now. I think I don't know
the schedule.
I've got to actually pull up the schedule here so we can see. So let me pull this down. Okay. Let's pull up the schedule here so we can all see it. So, because why not? Let's pull it on up. Ta-da. Okay, so let's see what we have going on here. So, okay, so so Kevin's is actually at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we're catching him before the lecture.
Right.
So that's good. So all good there. And again, if you haven't logged in, you just click log in. That's where you go to go and log into the conference, right up here at the top. And what's Kevin going to be talking about today? So Kevin's going to be in there with Dan, again, talking about ultra-widefield and how you can implement it in your practice.
Okay, a little bit about Kevin. He's been on the faculty of the University of Houston College of Optometry. Well, looks like he was on there for 16 years.
Yep.
On the other hand, he is now in private practice in Houston.
Yep.
So he's taking advantage of his knowledge as an academic
Yep.
to becoming a private practitioner. Well, that should be interesting to see the difference.
Well, that's not what's interesting to me about him. What's interesting to me is that he was involved with the 2017 Houston Astros, the world champions. So I want to hear all about that. Forget about this wide field stuff. I want to know what it was like working with the baseball team.
But he was also president of the Texas Optometric Association, which in the past 10 years has been a very aggressive state association, which other state associations can replicate. Optometry in Texas is terrific.
Yep, yeah, they're definitely they look out for their members' interests for sure. So it's a great association. But again, I am more interested in the Houston Astros, and I'm really curious as to what that's like. So I want to talk to him about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so he'll be on in just a few minutes. Just to review really quickly, though, let me pull this up so people can know where we're going here. So again, the conference is on again today and tomorrow. If anybody had trouble getting in, I'll shoot out an e-blast as soon as this is over to everybody who registered, the hundreds and hundreds of people, just reminding them where to get in and how to do it and click. And if you have any trouble, we're here all day. Even though the live aspect of the conference is going to be over by 2 p.m. Eastern, it's still running all day. So you can come back and watch all the lectures on demand quite easily.
And with the heat all over the country, what else do you have to do?
There you go. And so again, if you want your show discount, this is critical. So the reason that you're getting discounts at the show at all is this is vastly cheaper way for companies to interact with doctors. Not having to go from place to place is a huge advantage. Not having to carry the equipment where shipping costs can run, $50,000 to $100,000 just to get equipment from one place to another, into a booth, set up, and everything else. So none of that expense exists here. So they're able to discount this equipment for you as deeply as possible. But to get it, you have to prove that you were here. And to prove that you're here, log into the conference, go into the exhibit hall. There's a door, literal door that you can look at. Get on in, click live chat, and then you'll go in and you'll see all the different products. If you're interested in Claris or Cirrus, click on what you want, and then there's a live chat button where you can speak with the folks at ZEISS directly, and they can get you hooked up with the salespeople who are standing by. I was amazed when we were setting up for the conference. I was talking to ZEISS about it, how many salespeople, not only how many salespeople do they have, but just how they're organizing everybody around the country getting ready for this to take care of anyone who's here. So no matter what region you're in, the right person will be with you to try to figure out what you need and what you can get and the kind of discount. So this is an all hands on deck effort.
The U.S. and Canada. Canada is just like the U.S. There's no problem.
But the funny thing is this is what I love about this conference though, because to the average person watching it, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm watching a lecture. It's easy to do. In the background, there's so many moving parts going on, making sure that people are getting hooked up with the right person in real time. So there's definitely a lot going on here. So again, show discounts for the digital refraction components. Again, they're selling at the lowest prices. Give you even deeper discounts if you can create a package. And discount equal to freight pricing. So I've got to figure out what that means.
Yep, that's the magic word here.
If anyone from ZEISS's sales or marketing team are listening to me, you might just want to shoot me an email explaining what that phrase means. I wonder if it has to do with the ability, because we're doing this online and it's so much cheaper, if that's why they're able to offer that. And again, the iProfiler Plus wavefront device, again, lowest selling prices and discount equal. And we're gonna speak with Matt West tomorrow actually about this this wavefront refraction device. So and why it's useful in practice. So we'll have more on that tomorrow. So all pretest and anterior segment imaging devices, again, lowest selling prices. Chairs, stands, and tables, something which Paul did not realize.
I did not realize that ZEISS was in the chair, stands, and table business.
So there you go. And exam lane packages, again, special pricing if you want to put a whole package together. So this is the time, if you've been hemming and hawing and holding out, this would probably be a pretty good time to do it.
Well, rather than wait for Vision Expo, where you're competing against all sorts of other people.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, I'll bet you the discounts here will be lower than Vision Expo.
So, with the physical shows, what I've seen happen is that the times that you can get the deepest discounts is just when the show is ending and they want to get rid of the equipment that's sitting there on the floor. So if you're willing to, to risk it and go there and then see what the leftovers are, I've seen that happen before. But again, the costs are so high and baked in at these events that it's difficult, to give the deepest discount.
And not only the cost of exhibiting, not only the cost for the manufacturer to ship everything and have people standing by, but just to get into Vision Expo and have a booth.
Yeah, oh my God. I always like to say anytime that New York is involved, no matter what you do, when you go there, you're easily out $1,000 to get there, to go to Vision Expo, no matter what, no matter how cheap you try to make it.
Just the travel part.
Just the travel part. I mean, you just getting an Uber in and out of the airport there, you could be well into like, what, $120, $150.
Yes, that's Vision Expo East. But the West is a little easier, I
West
guess.
is a little easier. I mean, West, if we're going to compare notes, West is my favorite show. Just because the ease of use of Las Vegas, it was obviously a city designed for tourists, and they make it very easy to do things, and it's much less expensive as well. But, some people like the excitement of New York, so that's...
Yep, well, it's always exciting.
That's why some people like going there. So anyway, and again, so the schedule, we've shown you the lectures that are going on. The Retinal Bootcamp, you can go back and listen to it right now as we speak. It's up there on demand. Again, new trends and practices in the diagnosis and management of glaucoma. So going on as we speak. And then this one's going to be coming up, the Ultra-widefield 2.0 HD True Color Imaging.
Yeah,
and we're going to catch Kevin right about now, right? So he should be around.
Sure, why don't we call him?
That is a grand idea. If I can get this thing working. Steve is also around. He just said so we can harass him later too. So, okay. Did I type that right? Yes.
You've reached the voicemail of Kevin G. I
Oh,
apologize.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
hate
able
that.
to take your call at this time. If you
Kevin.
Where are you? You send him an email?
I'm going to send him an email right now.
This is always one of the downsides of doing something in real time and live.
Yep. Well, that's part of the fun of doing things live,
Oh, yeah,
right?
it
I
just
mean,
keeps
disasters
your heart
happen.
pounding.
I was mentioning before that while we wait for Kevin to either email me back or not show up or whatever, I was mentioning before the on-demand aspect of this with CEwire. CEwire has become the largest conference, the largest online conference for eye care. That's not even close. I mean, we've had about 10,000 docs go through it in our annual conferences, and the great part about that is that we've generated a lot of data because we do surveys and we want to know what people like, what people hate. the number of people who take the courses on demand or who take them live and then come back on demand is absolutely shocking to me. I thought when we first started doing it, you know, on demand, yeah, people would come on demand, but a lot of people do want live. But I think from the last survey we did, 75% were on-demand people. I
Right.
mean, it was a huge number who want to come back on demand and watch later.
Yeah, but the problem is that state boards, if you want credit, some state boards want you to take it live.
Mm-hmm.
They consider that equal to being at a bricks and mortars conference, so they have no choice.
Yep.
So you want to take it, make sure you pass the exam, but if you haven't passed the exam, it's all right if you just took it, take the course the second time and pass the exam, you'll still get the state board credit. I think also the interesting part is that with a more lenient state board, for example, in Oregon, you can take all your credits online. In Canada, I think most of the provinces allow almost every course,
Yeah,
100%.
like almost 100% or a very high number.
And
Yep.
so what the result is that a third of our people taking the course on CE Wire are Canadian.
Last time around, yeah. So,
so-
it's a big number, and you know we'd really like to see the state boards loosen up here. I know, you know, some boards are getting pretty loose, especially here out west. A lot of the states really do allow a lot of online CE, which is
Yeah,
great.
so it's getting better.
What's mind-blowing to me is that the other states, you know, they haven't really looked at this and thought, you know, maybe this is something we should. I mean, I know why they don't,
Yeah,
Right.
we all know why.
but you know, I think that CE is really designed to protect the public, right? That's why it exists. It's not for doctors necessarily. It's to protect the public from incompetence and, you know, people who've lost their way and haven't, you know, gotten retrained. And so I think what the state boards really should be looking at is online CE superior, inferior, or the same as in-person CE in terms of outcomes?
Right.
And I think that's something that really needs to be looked at closely, because if you can say that they're equivalent, then there's really no justification for limiting the amount of online CE.
Sure, well, and some would say we're superior because we have exams
True.
to make certain that people understand what was given.
Yes, so there is a little bit of a higher bar for online exams because you do have to pass a test at the end. So I just think in the future, this is going to be an issue that will come to a head, and I hope that somebody studies it more closely, what the impact of online CE is. Now, you know, if you look at Canada or Washington State where they do a lot of online CE, or even here in Oregon, I don't perceive that, you know, there's blood in the streets, right? I think that the malpractice rates are probably quite similar to states that don't have any online CE.
Well, the malpractice for optometry is so low,
Right.
so that's not really even an issue.
It's a low bar, but what I'm saying is I don't think that you can show that outcomes are necessarily worse for online CE yet, and they could possibly be better just because you're forced to pay attention because there's a test at the end.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing they liked about CE Wire is the price. And they said that the price was fair. We asked on a survey, should we lower the price? And the response was no, the price is right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you shouldn't do it any less, more cheaply.
Right.
We try to keep it as low as we can because we feel the pain of the younger optometrists that have to spend a good portion of their income on just trying to keep up with the state board approval for the courses. So
Yep.
so we do our best to keep it this way. And of course, this particular meeting, no CE credit, but also it's free.
Yep.
So that's the good news.
Yep. So yeah, so you're getting a lot of really interesting topics. I mean, yeah, no CE credit, but you know the talks are just as good. So, all right. Well, let me see if
We can try them again.
I can try them one more time, and we can find out. Oh wait, the customary freight. Oh wait, hold on. I'm getting somebody from ZEISS here talking about customary freight charge on the equipment. I gotta ask. Discount equal to freight pricing. I'm gonna ask this contact here at ZEISS.
There's so much sales jargon that the average person outside of sales doesn't really know or understand.
I know I'm looking like a complete imbecile actually right now, writing him this email. Like, what does this actually mean? Because I am really confused.
As long as we have a little airtime, some of you may wonder with the CE course we had 56 hours of CE this past year, and we offer a prize to the one person or those that took the courses and at all 56 hours and passed the exam, and we have a raffle to get, what's it called, an Amazon phone? What the hell? The Apple.
An Apple Watch.
Phone. An Apple Watch.
One of these things.
What's the value? $300.
About $300.
$300. And we thought for sure there would be more people taking all 56 hours. It turned out this year we only had 3. And of the 3, 2 were from Canada and 1 was from Latvia.
Oh, there you
So
go.
you can imagine if someone whose English is their second language that took all 56 hours and also passed the exam, it's incredible.
56 hours is a lot. I
That's
mean,
all.
the reason that we offer 56 is not that we really think that people are going to do this, because frankly, I think the 3 people who did it, they all deserve watches because they're lunatics, and it's crazy to be able
Yeah.
to do that much. But we offer that many because we want to give people choice, right? Because you're not interested in everything, right? Nobody's. I guess 3 people are interested in everything.
Well, and also part of the problem is that we say, yeah, let's try for 40 hours this year, but there are so many good speakers
Yeah.
with so many great topics that we just can't say no.
Right.
And you'll see that we are also top heavy. I think we probably have a higher percentage of ophthalmologists and other MDs giving courses than any other meeting in the country.
Absolutely, and in this year this next year, 2020, we're inviting different kinds of physicians in as well this time around. So it's going to be really interesting. We're going to be seeing specialties that you haven't seen before. These MDs are willing to come in and give some really cool lectures. So you're not going to be able to get that content elsewhere. So it's going to be
Sure, you want to know about hypertension. Isn't it great to get someone that's a
cardiologist.
specialist?
Yeah. So it's going to be fun this year. But again, more power to anyone who can take 56 credits. And to Paul's point, we've worked now with well over 100 speakers, and we have this huge speakers bureau, of folks who've done CEwire over the last 5 years. And our biggest problem is, I hate saying no to people. It drives me crazy. But when
Right.
you have this number of speakers, what can you do?
And the speakers love it.
We're going to have to just keep rotating them through. Is
The
the real
speakers
answer.
love it because they don't have to be, their only obligation is to stand by, and they don't have to physically give the course
Sure.
and travel to the venue.
Yeah. So
So
for
they
the speakers, I mean, it's a great deal. But for us, the challenge is now going to be balancing, with all these speakers that we've had. Because if we could offer 100 hours, I would do it. But it's just it's a lot of work. It's very, very hard to throw all of it together. But anyway, this next one coming up, 2020, is going to be really special. We really are trying to reach out to areas in healthcare, even outside of eye care. So you're going to get to see a lot of material. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on things that you wouldn't think would be part of eye care. We're doing stuff on opioids, where in fact we're going to be, germane here to the Pacific Northwest, we're going to be doing a huge piece on cannabis, right, in eye care.
Right.
Because it's become a major deal. And it's something that not a lot of people know about, so we're going out to reach out to experts who can to get through the medical evidence for us so we can concisely have one lecture where you can really learn a lot about it. So
Now you'll hear more about it in the next couple of months as we
Yep.
get everything lined up.
as we get everything together in the fall, you'll hear all about it. So so should I try Kevin one more time? I don't want him to
Sure.
be late for his class. I'll try his phone one more time. And hopefully he will show.
reached the voicemail of Kevin G. I apologize, I'm not able to take your call at this time.
No.
If you'd leave a brief message and phone number.
Not there.
Okay, well, you're
right.
not going to find out about the Houston Astros today.
I know. I'm annoyed because I really do want to hear about the Astros,
So
but
did
maybe
you
he'll
send him a text message.
I sent him an email. I could send him a text.
Yeah, so
I'll send him a text. Which you're right. I'll go the high tech way.
just do that because he has a class in 20 minutes.
Yep.
So he has to be somewhere. Yeah, it's amazing that CEwire takes up so much of our time now. ODwire still takes up personally 24/7 of my time, but Adam has and Steve, who's our partner in CEwire, spends an enormous amount of time setting up that program.
It takes a long time. I mean, Steve handles a lot of the educational aspects. I'm responsible for all the sort of business aspects of getting the conference running and all the tech. And there's a lot to do. There's a lot of moving pieces for sure.
So maybe it's so complicated that keeps the field from being overcrowded. I was thought there'd be more competition by now.
It's hard to put on, especially live events. They're stressful. I mean, look at me. Look at the bags under my eyes from doing this. Actually, the bags under my eyes were, I have to confess. So last night I went out to a concert and
Was it a good concert?
So I went out to the Lizzo concert last night. Now, anybody who's his age will not know who Lizzo is. And most people who are my age, including me, didn't know who Lizzo was. But my wife said, guess what? We're going to the Lizzo concert. You're going to love it.
Is it kind of where people stand up and wave their hands over their heads?
No one was sitting for the entire time. It was an outdoor concert, and and Lizzo has a very powerful voice. She was incredible, but I mean, I was the oldest person there for sure. I mean, looking around, there's maybe one or two other old guys. I saw some gray, the beards around, but I'm like, most people were incredibly young.
The young wives dragged them.
Yeah. And so, but it was a really good concert, I will say, but we stayed way too late and it was outdoors. So, it's a typical outdoor concert. You had to bring your own seats and, it's the kind of thing that you would absolutely despise. You would,
oh, I know.
You wouldn't set foot.
I would not go in.
You had to find your own seat in the field and there's porta potties and it was like a whole thing out in the sun. So it was fun though, but we stayed way, way too late last night and that's why I look the way I do this morning. But there you go.
Yeah.
So these concerts, I guess, are for younger people.
Wow.
Nope. So I don't know if Kevin's going to make it, but I'm gonna keep holding out hope here because I really do want to speak to him. But if not, I just got a letter from Michael Chaglazian, who gave a talk, or he's giving a talk tomorrow. See, I don't even know the schedule, but anyway, we're going to be speaking with him on the phone, and he was actually in sessions this morning. Yeah, he's doing it Sunday morning. He's giving a talk, but he's giving a talk on glaucoma. But right now he's in the lectures, and he's actually saying they're going really well. So a positive review from someone inside. It's hard for us because we get stuck here, doing this live stuff, and it's hard for us to know exactly what's going on inside the conference. That's why Steve's around usually, to give us some moral support and let us know what's actually happening inside. And if we can't get Kevin here in a few minutes, I suppose I could give Steve a call.
Steve's around?
Steve's around. Yeah, he's taking classes right now. He just texted and said he's available, so happy to...
Okay, yeah.
What we might be able to do is talk to Steve now, and maybe we could even catch Kevin on the way out of his class.
Even on the way out, or even during class, he can.
Or even during class, yeah. I texted him. Hopefully, he'll get back to me.
Okay, so try him one more time, and then let's try Steve.
Well, I texted him, and he didn't respond. And since I have his cell phone number, if he didn't respond to my text, clearly his phone is not in his hand. See, logic.
I don't know about this stuff, so. Okay, so.
Well, yeah, and before we call Steve, let me just, I want to run through this one more time because in case people are sitting on ODwire, which they could very well be watching this right now, Let me just run through. And I think I have an idea of what this show discount was. So let me actually pull this up again.
And by the way, we can't discuss pricing.
No.
People ask you what sort of discounts can you get. You have to register, go to the exhibit hall, and start talking to the salespeople.
Wait, Kevin's trying to reach me. Okay, so Kevin's trying to reach me. And okay, so Kevin is here. So let me try one more time. See, I knew we'd get him. It's just a matter of nagging enough. And
We'll find out. Usually it's a time zone difference.
yes. Well, and he's ultra confusing, right? Because he's on Central Time, so it's like right in the middle. You almost wonder what it would be like if a dictator took over and just said, you know what, there's going to be one time zone.
That's it. Well, we're all trying to go on to daylight savings time.
That's true.
That should be interesting. Here it gets light out at what, 8 o'clock? It's standard time now in the winter time here in the Northwest.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin, we finally got you.
Okay,
Woo-hoo!
let's find out why. Where were you?
I'm in the middle of patient care. I blocked for the actual live feed, but I'm good. I'm good now.
Are you good? Because we don't want to interrupt that. I mean, that takes priority. But if you're okay, maybe we can just
No,
talk
we're
for a
good.
couple minutes.
Yeah. I apologize. I thought I'd have a little window in there, but we just kind of got slammed. You know how it is in the office. It's all good.
You know, we were talking a little bit about you and your background, you know, moving from University of Houston to private practice. But what's more interesting to me is tell me all about the Houston Astros.
So I've been caring for the Astros since 2005 and taking care of all their eye care needs.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. And am I hearing myself? You want to? Oh, do you have the live stream going in the background? I think I hear myself.
I gotcha.
There we go. 7-second delay, right? You know, just in case Paul goes off and says
Yes, that's
something.
right. You gotta watch me.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so the Houston. What's unique about the vision of a Major League Baseball player?
I tell you, they're spectacles. They're just amazing folks. From not when I say spectacles, no pun intended. I mean, their vision is beyond comparison to just a normal human being. They're from everything, from their kinesiology all the way to their vision. So whether it's Major League or professional football, you see a difference in folks' vision at the end of the day.
Huh. You know, I've heard people always complain about engineers as patients, right? Because they're very nitpicky. I would imagine, are baseball players incredibly fussy about their vision?
They're actually not. They're aware of it.
Hmm.
I think a lot of that has to do with, a lot of baseball players are brought into this world as baseball players. I mean, they're early identified as something that has talent and then groomed for that. So typically not. Most of the time they come through us and they're going, I don't have a problem. And typically they don't. But when we identify an issue, some of that's met with resistance to, listen, I made it this far. Why are you trying to change things on me?
Right. You know, it's funny. We were talking to Ed Bennett last time we did this actually on the live stream. He works with Tommy Pham when he was with the Cardinals, and he had keratoconus. And as far as I know, that has to be the only major leaguer with keratoconus, right? I mean, have you ever heard of anyone else who could make it that far?
With keratoconus?
Yeah.
I have heard of and have identified a few questionable corneal ectasias. I don't know if I'd call it as frank as Tommy Pham's situation, because I've seen some of his talks and whatnot. But there's, like I said, he's definitely an outlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. All right. So I guess, but you're going to have your lecture coming up here in like 10 minutes. So we can just really briefly ask you, because, your thing's all about ultra-wide field. And so obviously it's becoming hot. The machines are definitely becoming much more advanced, much more compact. They work faster and better. So where do you see ultra-wide field going these days?
So we've been working with wide field imaging for decades now, really. I mean, and where I see it going is quite possibly in the realm of kind of a preferred practice pattern. I was listening to Dan earlier today, talking about the different ways it's being used, and specifically in the private practice, a lot of folks, myself included, are using it as a screening, and patients are taking well to that. I think one of the conversations that Dan and I had was, not very many people drive in his area to their appointments, but almost everybody drives to their appointment here in Texas. And that can be an impediment sometimes for actually dilating the pupil. And sometimes having an instrument like the Claris 500 that's able to act as a screener to necessitate the need for a full dilation at the end of the day to further dive deeper in. So I see it actually going in that direction where folks, both practitioners, insurers, and patients are starting to accept this as kind of a preferred practice pattern in screening, possibly.
Right. Do you think it's eventually going to become standard of care?
So that's a tough word, right? Standard of care versus preferred practice patterns. I'd rather stay on the side of saying, listen, I don't know that anything's ever going to replace dilation as a standard of care. Visual field being a prime example. A visual field is not perfect. It's terribly subjective, but at the same time, we still call that a standard of care, whereas we all know that we're going to lose half of our nerve fiber layer in order to see a visual field defect on a standard Humphrey visual field. So I don't know if it will necessarily become standard of care, but more of what I designate as a preferred practice pattern.
And speaking of that, just a little aside, you were an academic for 16 years and then went into private practice. What's the difference between being in academia versus private practice as far as patient care?
How much time do we have? To be completely transparent, I established my private practice in 2007, and I was adjunct prior to joining full-time assistant professor at the University of Houston in 2007. So I actually had both going on at the same time. And we have a very interesting way of seeing our patients. We see our patients actually in the evening, and we cater to our working crowd. So it allowed me to see patients alongside with the students in the clinic at the university during the day, and I saw my private patients in the evening. And I actually kind of kept that model now, even though I'm not at the university. We focus 3 nights a week where we see patients all the way until 9 p.m. Central Time. But the difference is really the ability to make judgments like this, to make an independent decision based off of what you see and what you feel like doing, obviously independently. Whereas everything at the university tends to be a little more case-based. And I think that's the great debate of how are we training our up-and-coming generation? Are we training them as real-world clinicians, or are we training them in an academic setting that provides them the best opportunity to practice in the real world? How many folks are actually going to go down the academic route? I think that's a fine line to toe, and that's one of the great things that I enjoyed being a part of, is being able to provide both for our clinicians at the university.
Sure.
Right.
So your talk is coming up very soon about you're going to be mentioning the Claris 500, and I'm putting up some pictures on the screen right now so people can see what we're talking about. You've been doing this for a really long time. You've probably seen every generation of these wide field cameras. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Claris 500 and how it compares to the older devices?
It's amazing. I got to tell you, I never thought that we were going, maybe I was naive, but I never thought we were going to get to the place where we're able to get such a wide field of view with the type of resolution that we're being able to provide, as well as the true color of the eye, of the retina. You know, when I show these to patients that have had other technology done before, they're amazed that that's actually what you see. And I'm telling you, this is what I see in the eye. We like to zoom in and use the resolution and show folks. I routinely show folks their optic nerve diameter, which, you know, typically comes in at about 1.5 to 2 millimeters. And they're amazed. I just kind of like let the kind of mull on that. They're amazed at the fact that they're actually seeing a piece of their human anatomy in full clarity at, you know, to the scale of 2 millimeters at best. So I've seen that evolve from a user interface, being able to take a true image and true color and to be able to capture is something you can control, has been paramount. Whereas in the past, we had to move the patient around and have the patient look here, look there, and you're able to capture it. To be able to see this on the screen and push the button and know with certainty when you push the button that the user interface is timely, and it, to a certain extent, speeds up the examination.
Right. So the device, I'm looking at the device on the screen right now. So the device actually swivels. The patient stays stationary as the device moves.
Exactly.
So what's the difference as far as dilation versus non-dilation with the picture that you see?
You get, what we've seen is you're really getting a tad bit more of the field of view, but from a user acquisition, it tends to be obviously easier through a dilated pupil, but it's not significantly that much easier. So we provide our patients 3 options when they sign in. They get an option to have just the Claris 500 done and defer their dilation. We have the opportunity to defer the Claris 500 and proceed forward with just regular traditional dilation, as well as the third option to have both done. And you'd be surprised how many folks want that documentation from a dilated pupil, and they're just been so used to being dilated to have both done at the same time. And you know, we're moving in that direction where everybody wants their information, and so to be able to provide somebody that.
Did you do it as a baseline reading, so everyone has the option of
Yes.
using the Claris?
Yes, we do. And then with the Power Forum and a lot of the overlay that's available with OCTA, to be able to put those together year to year and sequentially and compare those, it's important for us as a clinician, as well as impressive on the patient side to say, listen, I'm actually being followed with something objective as opposed to subjective, where I'm sketching out and making notes in my chart.
Right. So you've only got a couple minutes before your class. If you had to give some parting advice to folks who are shopping now for ultra-widefield unit, what are like the things that they should look for when they're shopping?
I'll go back to the user interface and how easy it is to obtain this image. The other thing too that I would go back to, and it can't be denied, is the price point, and finally the integration with all the other instrumentations, pieces of instrumentation that ZEISS is developing and is in the pipeline right now. How this fits into how all that will eventually work together, and it's to a certain extent working together now, but will in the near future be able to work together.
Great. All right. Well, Kevin, good luck with your talk. And, hopefully we're going to rerun this segment actually throughout the day today. So hopefully if people have more questions, they can, if they see this, they'll come on back and we can put them on ODwire and we can get the conversation started.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thanks for chasing me around.
Hey.
Thanks so much. Bye. That was fun.
Okay, that was good.
Yeah. So again, let me put up a picture of the Claris again. So, because I think, Paul, this may be you're probably not that familiar with it, but in the old wide field cameras, right? I won't mention any brand names, but the old ones, it was really a physical thing. You had to smush your face into the thing to really get a good picture. And it was uncomfortable and irritating to do. And then you'd have to do it twice, right? You'd have to move out of position again and then smush your face back in. With this one, as you can see, you stick your head in the chin rest, and the unit itself is small enough that it actually swivels.
Right.
Versus the old one, which was like it's gigantic.
It looks like a slit lamp. It has
Yeah.
a joystick.
Yep.
And it looks like the picture is of an OD rather than an assistant. Is it
Yeah.
simple enough, I wonder, for the assistant to
I would
to use
imagine.
this?
I would imagine so. Yeah. I'm just amazed by how the technology has evolved.
Yep.
It wasn't that long ago, that these ultra wide field units were really big and really clunky and not the easiest things to deal with. And now it's just remarkable.
Okay, well, I think maybe Steve might be available.
Probably.
Why don't we call him and see?
I can give him a shot. All right.
You have his number, I assume.
I have his number. Wait, before we
Okay.
do that, though, let me just, before I call him in, I just want to make sure that everyone is doing okay, because as you know, this is part of my job. Let's make 100% sure. It seems like everyone's doing great and getting in okay, so we're all doing well there. So
I hope people are starting to visit the booths.
Yep.
These talks should motivate people
I
to
would
give
think
this.
so. I would think
Boy,
so.
it seems that from a sales point of view, just from a marketing point of view, having this type of equipment in the practice, it's got to pay for itself.
That's what we're going to talk to Steve about, because he has a lot of this equipment already. He's actually on the hunt now for a new wide field unit, and so we'll talk to him about it. But I know that for the economics of the one that he had in practice, we'll talk to him about it. It's profitable.
Yeah, so we can talk a little more about economics
Sure.
when it comes to this.
Okay. Let me get Steve.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Steve. How's it going?
Hi, Steve.
Good. You're, as always, doing a great job. Love your new room. 500 by 40. That's great. Just on the back end, just so you know, the conference is going great, and they're doing something that we didn't do very much of at CEWire, which I think we should incorporate. You actually can see the people talking. They've done the videos really well. It's nice to see a face.
Sure. Although some people don't want to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate it.
Some of them ask, you can have somebody else, mime your words, but it actually looks really good. Murray was great. So was the original speaking G. I'm going to be listening to very shortly. But everything's going seamlessly. I mean, the production was great, and so far the lectures are very. Just to give you an idea, I have 2 of the 3 instruments you're talking about. I have the field tester, I have the OCT, and for me, it's really an enlightening experience seeing Murray Fingerette peel back the layers of what you do for visual fields. We all get comfortable in what we're doing, and we should get some of the nuances, and this is a great refresher. And the OCT lecture was great. We just got it 4 months ago, and so a lot of the new features we're still familiar with and we're using, and it's far better than anything I've had before. What other questions can I answer?
Well, Steve, you are on the prowl for a new ultra wide field unit. This I know, right?
Yes.
And so this to me was one of the more interesting things. Is the lecture on the Claris 500 is going on, I guess, right now. So I'm assuming that's going to be on your radar.
Yep. Reason being is, as you know, we have another company's unit that works on a different principle. We've had it for 4 or 5 years, and it's pretty much paid off. It's okay. It has some good features, but the resolution isn't nearly as good as the ultra-widefield camera by ZEISS, which I've kicked ours on at the last 2 conventions. So I'm chomping at the bit to get it, and probably in the next few months we'll be searching for that. We're going, as you know, to Vision Expo West and the Academy meeting, and perhaps purchase it there. The quality of the imagery is good. I agree with Dr. G that at this point in time, it's not really the standard of care, but eventually when it gets out to the aura and dilation becomes what we consider to be like knives and bearskins in 20 years, it very well might be when it can do things and rotate things around, and you can see pretty much everything you'd want to see through an undilated pupil, and even through a cataract or something like that.
Right.
So right now, for example, if I dilate somebody and somebody has, let's say, a moderate cataract, I really have trouble seeing with my Bayo or other lenses. Well, even the other instrument kind of breaks through the cataract and you can see the retina far better. So even at this point in time, it's very useful. We pretty much do it on all patients. So that'll be the third arrow in my quiver that I get from ZEISS. So they've been great. One thing that's great with the OCT is that to show how you can increase business and as well as be more professional, we have exactly the same instrument as the two retinal specialists that we use for care. So a lot of people have anti-veg treatments, and they bring their printout of their ZEISS OCT that they took the last time they were there, and I can compare apples and apples with the patients. So to the point that now the retinal specialists allow us to see the patients for the 1-week checkup. We check their pressures. We do a scan of the macula. So we're doing retinal care at the same time, being able to bill for it, and the patient feels more comfortable with us that we're using the same instruments as the retinal specialist, and the retinal specialist has gotten comfortable with us. So it's actually it's good for business, it's good for professionalism, and it's just a win-win proposition.
Absolutely. And speaking of business, you've had Widefield now in your office for several years. Paul was asking about the economics of this because obviously it's a big investment. Can you just speak for a second to what you do in your office in terms of how do you actually make the unit profitable for you?
Sure, it's super easy from day one. We charge, we do it as an elective procedure. My staff is well scripted and have it to present it. And pretty much I'd say 8 out of 10 people will get it done. So let's do some math. We charge $39, let's make it $40. And we have a busy practice with actually 4 doctors now. So we're pretty much booked all the time, every day. So we might do on an average day 40 of those scans. So multiplying it out, that's about $1,600 for one day's work. That's more than the lease costs for the month. So everything else is pure profit, and we do give our staff, based on the amount of tests they've done a month, a spiff, and that works to our advantage because they're more motivated to present it. And it's not a large amount of money, but they do appreciate it. So on an economic basis, already it's extremely profitable. It's also those people generate more patients because they talk about it. Now, if you have to go further and do a real retinal photography because the patient has some pathology, then we'll go to a regular high-resolution regular retinal camera and take the picture and then bill that to insurance. The other one just goes by the boards. So now that doesn't include what's called the 179 election. If you buy a piece of equipment that's $50,000, you can deduct it off your taxes that year, and then really the first year and a half, 2 years of payments of the lease, and usually these leases are capital leases with $1 buyback, so you own the equipment at the end of it if you give them $1. I usually can afford $1 at the end of the equipment period. So essentially you can make literally, let's say $10,000 a month if you have a busy practice like us. Even if you're a solo practitioner, let's say you're doing 3 tests a day and you're making $100 and you're working 20 days a month, that's $2,000. The lease is far less than that a month. So even those people will be getting a better return on their investment, plus the professionalism of doing it. People tell other people, other offices don't have it, etc. And if you explain it to the patients, it also becomes an educational thing. So, and then again, sometimes I'll see somebody, I'll give you an example. Last week, somebody came in with flashes and floaters. We did the wide-field camera, and before they came in the room, I said, "You're done. You have a retinal detachment. I'm sending you out right now to the retinologist," and it saves us time at that point in time rather than having to go in, dilate the patient, using the I knew diagnosis right from the very beginning before I even saw the patient.
Right. Do you use technicians to use the equipment, or do you have the optometrists do it?
Technicians pretty much do everything in terms of the equipment, yes. And after a while, again, we're trained in it at the very beginning, and we know it backwards and forwards day one. Day 100, we forgot how to use it, and so they're vital. So they know better. They know the nuances, And when you start seeing people that are 95 and 5, you get better at learning how to position them, etc. So the only thing that we'll do that are certain procedures like a treatment with meibomian gland expression, certainly taking out a foreign body, but things like visual field testing, OCT, wide field camera imaging, etc. Now, sometimes we'll have a retinal lesion where we're finding it during the examination that wasn't picked up earlier, and we'll direct them where to scan the retina in that area so we can see whether it's a schisis, an attachment, etc. So we might come out and say, well, we want this spot over here, and then they can orient the patient and orient their fixation to get it. I think most offices, the technicians pretty much do the yeoman amount of work.
Yeah. Do you market it for healthy eyes to tell people that they need it for a baseline reading for future?
Yes, I think it's great for healthy eyes. We do that in other areas of medicine. They do an EKG when you're 25, 30 years old. So it's nice to see, because sometimes you see occult things. Number one, you might see a chirpy or a chordal nevus or something like that, and you want to monitor that, but you don't know that until you do that for a scan, because it may be way out in the periphery, and you might see it, but you want to document what it looks like, and so you can compare that from year to year. So now, having said that, let's say you do a 10-year-old kid and everything's fine, everything's normal, and they're coming back for a yearly examination. We generally won't even present to that person because it's just not needed. That's overkill. We believe if it's clinically important, we should do it, but there's some cases where it's simply not.
Right.
So basically, here, even if the health insurance doesn't cover it, people will accept it because they would like to have that normal retina record.
That's correct. And in fact, you're not in the field anymore, Paul, where you see the health insurance and the vision care plan information. But for example, the largest vision care company does have an area where it suggests having wide field imagery, and they suggest a price of $39. I think you know which company we're talking about. And so they're suggesting it in their format. That might be a good test to do, and this is the not agreed upon. They don't pay for it. They just suggest patients having it. So if they're suggesting it, it makes it a lot easier to present. But I'll present that after the fact. Say your insurance company or your vision care company has suggested this test. We did it already, so and this is what we're getting out of it. But like you said, you asked Dr. G before, will all these tests become the standard of care? Optometry and ophthalmology, it's kind of weird. In medicine, you can do a chest x-ray and bill for it. If there's nothing wrong, you can do an MRI, you suspect a problem, it comes out healthy, you can still bill for it, or at least the radiologist scan, CT scan. But in eye care, if you did a visual field and it's normal and the person has no complaints, you can't bill for it, et cetera, et cetera. The silliest thing is let's say I have somebody with glaucoma that also is a diabetic, and we want to take pictures of the fundus and show and document diabetic retinopathy, but they also have glaucoma, and you want to scan the nerve to find out what the nerve fiber layer is doing, et cetera. You can't, and this has been for many, many years, you can't bill the OCT of the nerve and the fundus photo at the same time because insurance considers it the same test. Of course, it's not the same test. So either you do both the same day and the patient pays for the other test, or you have them back to do the other test on another day, which often practitioners do. So eye care is really, I don't know why it's been isolated as a witch hunt. If we do a fundus photo and find healthiness and we can't bill for it, while in other areas of medicine they can do these imaging studies, and even if everything is well, they're not doing a witch hunt, they're just making sure the patient's healthy.
Right.
And this is true for optometry or ophthalmology?
Yeah, it's Medicare that makes the rules, and private insurance usually follows by those rules. So Medicare has decreed that we can't do these things. When I'm sure, Paul, Adam, have you had chest X-rays just to make sure everything's fine? And you probably didn't pay for it because everything was fine.
Right.
And the same thing goes with a PSA test for prostate. If I'm glad if mine's 0.1, and the insurance company pays for it.
Yep.
But in optometry, no, it's not that you're not going to do a complete blood work and a complete MRI and CT scan as well as a VEP on every patient, but you're going to do certain basic tests like a wide field imagery, like what another company does with a wellness examination with the OCT. For example, an IOP on patients. We do that all the time. It's part of the examination. The funny thing is that Medicare patients don't realize that the part that they're considering they're coming for, refraction, of course, is not covered by at least Medicare exam fees. Sometimes
Right.
they have a secondary insurance that covers it, but that's individual patients.
Right. All right. Well, good. So,
Okay,
Steve,
yes.
I think we're going to pretty much wrap up here today
Yeah.
on our live stream, and I'm hoping that folks out in the conference, take advantage of the exhibit hall and go on in there and grab some of these discounts. We know,
agree.
Last year was a huge hit. I think we have even more people this year, so I'm hoping that they go in and take advantage of this.
Great. And just a little plug for CUR coming up, and hopefully we'll get a couple of speakers from here.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to have some amazing speakers. We're going to have pediatricians to tell us what they really don't know about eyes.
Yes.
You're our doctors, so we complain about, tell us what they really do and don't know about.
Yeah, we
eye
did
care.
a plug before, Steve.
Yeah. So it's going to be great. I mean, and I think the pharmacology ones are going to be interesting too, about opioids and about cannabis. We're going to be doing stuff that really you don't get in a lot of places.
And it's not true, by the way, we're not selling CBD there at the lectures for any discount.
They sell CBD here in our supermarkets. So, it's like second nature. But the fact is, people are just not educated about it. Even though everyone in Oregon, it's like they almost put it in the water. So yeah.
Well, that's Oregon. You're in the Wild West. We don't get that in New Jersey. The left coast is good for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of New Jersey, how's the heat there, Steve?
It's unbearable.
What are you going to do for the party tomorrow?
We have a pool. 100 degrees, hazy, hot, and humid. I mean, when I got up this morning, my windows I couldn't see out of, and it didn't rain. It was so muggy, and it's as if you're living in the Amazon rainforest today and tomorrow. It's going to break on Monday, but we have a big party. We have 3 birthdays, and I think we'll be beach whales in the pool.
That sounds like a plan. All right, Steve. Well, you know what? I'm going to send out a mass email to everyone who's registered for the conference just now to remind them that everything's on demand immediately. So as soon as the course finishes, it's back up, and to get them to come into the conference. So I guess otherwise we will see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Great. I'll be there.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Thanks, Steve.
See you all
Bye-bye.
tomorrow.
Bye. Alrighty, so just a reminder before we log out here for the day, let me just remind people of what they're doing here and what they should be seeing. So let me pull this on up. All right, so again, courses are going to be over relatively soon for the day. There's only 45 minutes left, but the courses are going to be right back up again if people want to watch them. Again, if you want these deep discounts that people are giving, click on live chat when you're inside the exhibit hall. It's super easy to do, and someone there from ZEISS will be able to take your request and service you and get you to the right person. So that's how you qualify for the discounts. Is what you got to do. Is do it inside the site. And again, discounts on all digital refraction components at the lowest prices. Extended discounts for entire system packages, and discount equal to freight pricing. I think what that means is that you're getting free shipping. That is a strange way, in my mind, of writing that, but that's what that means, that for whatever it costs to ship you the instrument, they're going to give you a discount equivalent to that.
Uh-huh.
So if it costs, $300 to ship something, they'll build that discount into the price of the equipment. That's what I was getting here from the email that I got from someone at ZEISS, if I read it correctly.
So we'll see.
Hopefully I didn't screw that one up.
But we've learned also is that from Steve that the equipment pays for itself.
Yes.
So it's almost a no-brainer.
Yep.
If you have a fairly busy practice.
Yep. Yeah. And again, you have to present it to the patient properly, and Steve gets some pretty good tips about how he does it. So yeah. So discounts again on the iProfiler wavefront device. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow morning. So you're going to get to see what that's all about. Something new and different. And all pre-tested anterior segment imaging devices, again, same thing, lowest selling prices, and they'll give you a discount equal to their freight pricing. And chairs, stands, and tables, which Paul was unaware of that ZEISS was able to sell you, but they do it. In examining packages, again, bundle packages, you can deepen your discount if you want to. And so, again, the lectures that are already up, the Retinal Bootcamps are already there if you want to go watch it. This lecture on the new trends and practices in the diagnosis and management of glaucoma, also up there. Steve said it was great. He just attended it. And this one's finishing up right now, Ultra-widefield 2.0. And then there's 3 more lectures tomorrow, and we'll be right back at it, I guess, at the same time tomorrow.
Right.
Same time, same place. And what else do I have to say? Not much more other than, thank you to ZEISS for doing all this. And thank you to ZEISS, by the way, for our moon landing.
Yes, absolutely.
It wouldn't have been the same without you, ZEISS. Filming all of it, so those were your lenses that did it. So thank you for that. And I guess we will see everyone tomorrow. So unless you have any other parting words of wisdom, Paul, I guess we're gonna.
No, I think that's it.
We're gonna take off here.
Try
I guess.
to enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah,
everyone.
we'll try to get on out there. And if anyone has any questions, by the way, I will be online for the rest of the day, sending out those emails and answering support questions. So he's going to do nothing.
I'm going to go on ODwire. I haven't. I'm way behind.
He's way
It's us
behind.
here who's complaining about things. So got to keep answering.
But I will be back here. So if anybody needs anything, feel free to fire away to support, and I'll be here. So thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.